Hi everyone, this video is going to go over where everything goes in Java when you're running a class and what the heck to do with all those curly braces to keep them straight. So first off, your basic Java class, we already went over this. The only thing at the top outside of the class itself is the import statement. Sometimes you'll have more than one, but right now we just have this one, import java.util.star, and then a semicolon. So you want that up there. Sometimes it might give you a problem and highlight yellow saying it's never used, but don't worry about that. Just put it there. It's better to have it so you can use it. Okay, and then you're going to have your public class and the name of your class. And this is very, very important. Write it down if you haven't already. The name of the class has to be the name as what you saved your file as, and you shouldn't have more than one class with the same name. So like if we were working in Bear Bunnies before, you wouldn't make a new project and call it Bear Bunnies. You could call it Bear Bunnies 2 or something, but it would have to be saved the same. So if I went to File, Save As, and I changed the name from characteristics.java to like characteristics sabrina.harvey.java, that would not work because it has to be the same as the class name. And class names, just like variable names, can't have any punctuation except for underscores. So just keep it simple, use camel caps, and make sure that your file name is the same as your class name and that it's really obvious what it is. Don't worry about throwing your name in there. Okay, so when you make a class, the first thing you want to do once you've done we'll call this the header. Once you've done the class header is put those open and close curly braces and then give yourself some space in between. That way you'll know that the open and closed one exist and you're not worried later about, oh, did I put a closed one? Where does this closed one go? That way everything else you're going to write, everything in your code goes in between the open and closed brackets of your class, except for the import statement. So everything else. All of your methods, everything else. Okay, and the method that we've been dealing with the most is that main method. So let me get rid of this and we'll demo that too. So when you add any sort of method, public static void main, which main method is the one where we run all our code, you want to do that same thing. Immediately after you've done it, just put an open and close bracket. You should do that for parentheses too. Just do it all the time. Get in the habit of if you put an open something, put a close one. Okay? And then everything for my method will go in there. So, oops. Okay. This is your code. And the little slashes right here are a symbol for a comment, which means that the computer is not going to read it. It's there on the screen displayed for humans, but the computer will skip right over it, so it's not going to ruin your program. You use comments to label things later so you know your different sections, who did what each section does, and that sort of thing. Okay, so here we have a class, it's got one method in it. Here we have a class that has a bajillion methods in it. Like seriously, so many methods. So how do you know where to add a method and how do you do that without getting confused about curly braces? Well, the best rule of thumb is to just find the last bracket in the class, that one that you put when you formed that class, that closing bracket, and then just go up above it. So let's say that I had this situation where I've got this bracket and then I've got this bracket. Okay, and if I go up, I'm not above it enough. So what you want to do is give yourself some space between those brackets, this closing bracket and this bracket from another method, and then write your new method there. So let's say we do public void corner draw. Oops, and I should have started that with a lowercase. Okay. And then open and close parentheses, same thing. Always, 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 I mean brackets, but always, always, always just put the close one at the same time you do the open one, and then you can space in between and give them some other stuff. So this is where we'd put our code for corner draw. Most of the time, you're going to have a class with just the main method in it to test stuff out, and then you'll be dealing with a different class to write your methods. So the way that you do that, same thing, we find the last bracket, and if you click on the right of any bracket, it will highlight its partner and everything in between. So that's really useful for seeing what's part of what. If I click on this, everything is highlighted. So that's all part of the class, obviously. And then if I click on this, just that stuff's highlighted. So that's part of that method. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give myself some space in between the last bracket and the last bracket of the last method. And then I'll just put in a new method here. My method. Okay. Open bracket, close bracket, like the good boys and girls that you are. And you can do that over and over and over and add as many methods as you want. They just cannot have the same name. So if you're going to do a method for like a large square versus a small square, you need to write a different method for that or figure out a way to use the same method and change the size. So that's that. One last thing, when you're dealing with parameters, so let's say that I wanted to draw a circle and I wanted two different inputs. I wanted maybe int radius, and int pen width. I could do that later on, and so these would be values that you'd want to use here where you'd say, okay, turtle, you know, turn this much or whatever, and turtle set pen width to whatever pen width is. And then when you're calling a method, usually that's going to be inside your main method where you have a turtle. So let's pretend that I created a turtle here and I was telling it to draw. My turtle's name was Sue, and I said, okay, draw circle. Oops. If I wrote it with two values up here, then I need to put two values separated by commas here. And I put two integer values. So I need an integer and then an integer. So like 16, 376 or something. You can technically have methods with the same name, but it really complicates things, and we'll learn about that later. So that's it. I hope you took notes, and I hope that this helped wrap your head around those crazy brackets. Happy coding. X's and O's, Mrs. H.